moving on just to another issue, Craig Werner wants to know about the players that are currently out of contract. Will they get signed up shortly? And also, just following on from that, Aaron Donaldson wants to know specifically, when will Ben Brown be signed up long term? So a couple of guys there just wondering about our players that are out of contract.
Yeah, well, as many people might know, there's currently a moratorium or a freeze on contracts being signed. So, we followed that policy that's been implemented by the AFL industry wide. So, at the moment, there is we can't actually sign new agreements, but all of that will take its course over the next few weeks and months as the rest of the season becomes more clear. As it relates specifically to Ben, look, I think we'll get around to that as soon as the policy changes and we can go into contracting mode. I think Ben's made it pretty clear that he would love to stay at the Kangaroos, and obviously we'd love him to stay. So it's just about finding the right balance when the time is right. But I think if you look back over the last few years, whether it was Goldie or others, we've got a great track record of signing our key players and players wanting to stay. So I'd be very confident that we'll continue to see Ben in the royal blue and white into the future.
Well, just for Aaron's peace of mind, Ben did an interview the other day and he said that he still feels very indebted to North Melbourne for giving him an opportunity to play at AFL level, having obviously been overlooked in 3 drafts. So he said that, other clubs weren't prepared to give him a go and North Melbourne did. And he's got that very much at the front of his mind, which is a good thing.
Yeah, well, he not only has he been a wonderful player for us over the last handful of years, but he the work that he does off the field in the community, the example he sets, for the wider industry in engaging in really important social issues. I think Ben's a great asset to the club, both on the field and off the field, and clearly is a great asset to the wider community as well.
Going back to when we were just talking before about how amazing our supporters and members have been, we've actually got one here from Mark Franklin who says or asks, are we better off buying tickets in the major raffle, which is out now, or are we better off making a donation to the club throughout this period, or should I buy a second membership for this year or donate that amount some other way?
Well, every person's individual financial circumstances are different, but if Mark has the wherewithal, maybe it's all of the above. But look, I don't think any one of those is better than the other. Any contribution that can be made would be greatly appreciated, but we don't expect it. We want to give people the opportunity to continue to make some contribution to the club, if that's a membership or if that's a $20 ticket to the raffle or whatever it can be. Whatever anyone could afford would be greatly appreciated. But we do recognise that times are tough and people need to tighten their belts. So and do what you can, but make sure you do it within your own means.
Ben, we've got a first-year coach in Rhys Shaw, a first-year general manager of football in Brady Rawlings, and a first-time CEO in the AFL in Ben Amafio as well. How have you seen their efforts to date under extreme circumstances and extreme pressure?
Yeah, good question, Heath. First of all, I'd say I just couldn't be more proud of the way the management team led by Ben, not only in his first year, but probably in his first 3 or 4 months. But it's not just Ben, it's yourself, it's Chris Simmons, it's Brady Rawlings, it's Meg Lawrence, it's a whole range of senior managers who get up every morning and trying to keep the club together. So I couldn't be more proud of the way our senior leaders of the club have gone about it, and I think they've been really, really giving in extreme circumstances. I know they've worked around the clock in the first few weeks, so literally working around the clock to keep the lights on and the doors open. And I think they've demonstrated a great maturity and a great sense of compassion too, because some very, very hard decisions have had to be made, and we shouldn't lose sight of that. There's been, substantial loss of employment opportunities, loss of income. Some people, have been stood down without being paid, and that takes a huge toll on families and family budgets, and we shouldn't lose sight of that. It's been very, very distressing times for a lot of people, but the empathy and the compassion our senior leaders have shown as they've made hard decisions, I think, is a great credit to them as individuals, and we as a board have been very proud of the way they've gone about it.
With respect to that, those decisions they're made, obviously from the management team perspective, but then they have to go to board for, endorsement. So the weight of that would have hit you particularly hard as well as the leader of the club and the other board members and directors. Do you remember the days when you were getting those updates from Ben Amafio and Brady Rawlings just about what these cuts were going to look like and how financially savage this was going to be? I mean, it would have been pretty tough.
Yeah, it's very tough because we might be in the sports and entertainment business, but really what we do is about people, whether it's players, coaches, staff members. We don't make machinery. We don't, pack boxes. We don't design cars. We're a people business. We're a people enterprise, and so everything we do is in investment in individuals and people. So when you've got to make tough decisions, those tough decisions, come down on an individual or impact an individual very significantly. So that's not, when you're looking at spreadsheets and numbers and all of those things that happen in these situations, you have to think about the actual impact, and each one of those decisions impacts an individual. I think where this is different than where things like this might have happened in the past in business is it's kind of a shared burden right across the community and across the country and across the globe. But I can't remember seeing anything that has impacted so many people in much the same way on such a deep level ever. Just sometimes businesses get into difficulties and get into hard times and you have to make tough decisions, but generally the rest of the world is going on around you almost oblivious to it. And in this situation, everyone, whether it's footy clubs or local grocery stores or local cafes or airlines, everyone's had to share or has had an experience of having to make tough decisions. And so I think there's a sort of almost a shared burden across the community that in some ways has made it a little, not easy is the wrong word, but you've been able to manage your way through it because everyone's sort of going through the same issues.
Yeah. Ben, do you have a message, just put you on the spot, but do you have a message for the members and supporters out there, and I suppose also our sponsors too, just at this time before we wrap up?
Yeah, look, my message is one of thanks. I just can't thank everyone enough for the messages of support, the encouragement, the fact that they are sticking by us, whether that's a sponsor or a member. It's been a testament to the loyalty and commitment and the passion that our fans and supporters and sponsors have for the club. And whilst, we talk about it a lot, and sometimes it sounds like you're speaking in cliches, but to have actually seen that in practice in the last couple of months has just been particularly uplifting. And I'd like to thank everyone on behalf of the board and the players and the staff for sticking with us. So thank you.
One last one from a supporter who's asked, Ben, what are your memories of coming over to try out with North Melbourne? Can you remember that far back?
Well, as you can see, the beard's a lot greyer. So remembering back is more difficult than it once was. But I think I'd probably like any young player turning up to any AFL club or VFL club as it was back then. And particularly for me, who came from, very small country town in northwest Tasmania, it was the big bright lights and the fact that you walked into a room and there was Ross Glendinning and Wayne Schimmelbusch and Keith Gregg and, John Kennedy. It was just, wow, 1 minute you're listening to them or watching on the radio or watching them on TV, and suddenly you're out there kicking the footy with them. And I guess that's my biggest memory is sort of the wow factor of suddenly being in the same presence and the same environment and getting to rub shoulders with your heroes from when you were growing up.
Did anyone in particular take you under their wing? Did you kind of, go towards one player in particular?
I don't remember one person in particular. I always had a great, even though I wasn't a North Melbourne supporter as a kid, I always had a great admiration and idolised Ross Glendinning. And when I first came into the club, Ross was particularly friendly, and to me he was sort of a demigod, if you like. And but he seemed to always look out for me, and we always have a laugh when we catch up these days. I was particularly disappointed when he left. I think it was at the end of 1986 to go back and captain the Eagles. I couldn't have been more disappointed. But to be able to sort of share a joke and share a beer with Ross Glendinning was pretty. I felt pretty good about myself at that point in time.
That was a good question. I should have mentioned that was from Paul Volkering as well. So a good question just to finish up on. Ben, thanks so much for allowing us some time to chat and to catch up, and your words about the club and your reassurance and the fact that you're in full control there is great for us. And we also want to thank you on behalf of all the members and supporters. Thank you for your work. It's a voluntary job, and it's probably been the hardest it's ever been for anyone in that position right now. So we appreciate all your work.
Great, thanks, Heath. And I just realised that I'm very thankful that I cleaned the kitchen, because I just realised that the kitchen sink's in the background. So.
Looks perfect. Looks spot on. All the best, mate. We'll talk soon.